It's time for the Voices of Treatment and Recovery show on KWAM The Voice. Now, here's your host, Vincent Lewis.
Hello. Welcome back to another edition of the Voices of Treatment and Recovery show. My name is Vincent Lewis, and I am your host. You've been listening to Brother Love, an incredible show about cheating. Great topic, man. We enjoyed it. Look, listen to Brother Love before me every week on Sundays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then we come on. We hope that his audience continues with us. Today on the Voices of Treatment and Recovery, we're going to be talking about family and addiction. We have an incredible guest that's going to be on the show here shortly. But until then, we're going to rock one of our wonderful guest artists we have on the show named Chris August. And the song is Amen.
This world is full of people, the weary and the poor, waiting for the day when they will hurt no more. Though this world is full of suffering, these promises are true. We hold on to the hope that the day is coming soon. So amen, amen. And the people said amen. The troubles of this world, they come into an end. And all my brothers and my sisters, let me hear it again. The kingdom is coming. And the people said amen. This world is full of struggles. We're all trying to break free. We fall back to the same things, 'cause addiction's our disease. But I'm telling you, there's someone who will set your spirit free. His name is Jesus, and his blood redeems. So amen, amen. And the people said amen. The troubles of this world, they come into an end. And all my brothers and my sisters, let me hear it again. The kingdom is coming. And the people said amen. Give me more than just religion, 'cause it feels like something's missing. That heaven and earth collision. Amen, amen. Lift your hand if you believe it. And if you feel it, then help me sing it. If you know that you need it, then you know that you need it. So amen, amen. And the people said amen, amen. Oh, and the people said amen. The troubles of this world, oh, they're coming gonna come to an end. And all my brothers and my sisters, let me hear it again. The kingdom is coming. And the people said amen. Help me sing. Yeah. People say the troubles of this world are coming
there something missing from your spiritual life? Do you wonder what good the churches are doing when there is so much addiction, homelessness, and general despair all around? Visit Get Recovered Ministries Christian Church at 4271 South 3rd Street in Westwood, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. They're a non-traditional Christian church looking for non-traditional Christians who want a chance to praise God and do His work without all the pomp and circumstance of traditional churches. GRMCC is a church built on the concept of growing your mind, body, and spirit through praising God, studying His Word, and doing His works. GRMCC offers addiction counseling and outreach, plus so much more. But they need your spirit and ideas. This Sunday morning at 10 a.m., bring your spirit, your praise, and your will to do God's work. To Get Recovered Ministries Christian Church at 4271 South 3rd Street, pastored by Reverend Harold Bates Sr. and Evangelist Phyllis Bates.
The Cano Health Services is a local Tennessee resource for substance abuse and addiction. Harold Connell had a vision of what he believed needed to be developed in the healthcare industry for substance abuse. Cano Health Services is a safe and acute setting within a hospital with professionals having a history of treating individuals suffering from a seemingly hopeless disease. This is dear to Harold's heart because he has suffered from this hopelessness disease and encourage individuals to take the first step and seek help. Start a new way of life today and visit behavioralhealthforyou.com.
Innovative Counseling and Consulting Incorporated is a place of understanding, healing, and hope for individuals and families seeking affordable substance abuse, mental health, and co-occurring disorder treatment services. Innovative Counseling and Consulting provides clients with tools for living an improved quality of life. We accomplish this by integrating a combination of the 12-step principles, evidence-based education, and cognitive behavioral therapy to meet the unique needs of each client. Whether you're an adult or teen that needs understanding, healing, and hope for behavioral health concerns, know that you have options and visit our website, innovativecounselingbhs.com. KAREN stands for Key Addiction Recovery Education Network. Karen Consultants is your one-stop source for high-quality, affordable addiction assistance, education, and guidance. Their business has 3 areas of focus: individual service, community service, and professional service. Founder Karen Dennis sees recovery as a self-discovery process in which you begin to choose new thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They work with all age groups who have been negatively impacted by their own substance use or by the use of someone they love. Of particular interest to Karen is working with those who have difficulty getting and staying healthy. Family of origin issues often impede recovery, and they offer a safe place to begin to explore those family dynamics. Another area that they're involved in is in parenting relationships with adult children. Karen Consultants provide clinical supervision and domain-specific education for those seeking license as an addiction counselor. They offer continuing education for professionals, an approved provider for NAADAC and NAFC. Call today at 901-268-5367 or visit them online at KarenConsultants.net. You've been listening to the Voices of Treatment and Recovery with your host, Vincent Lewis.
The weary and the poor, waiting for the day.
Welcome back to the Voices of Treatment and Recovery show. My name is Vincent Lewis, and I'm your host. We're getting started today with a guest we have from Detroit, Michigan. D-Lo, that's your hometown. Her name is Miss Jan Beckom, and she says she's an average 50-something, a single mother of 2 adult children, proud grandmother, and she was born one of 4 children in Detroit, Michigan. However, she spent most of her life in Kentucky, and that's where she thought she would be safe to raise her family. But everything changed when tragedy came calling. And she's going to tell you her story today. A lot of times on the show, we have treatment professionals to help you learn more about addiction and learn more about the treatment process. But today it's a little different. We're going to have a family situation that dealt with addiction, and there was some tragedy involved. But we're really encouraged by Miss Beckom for coming on the show today. And she reached out to us, and we heard her story, and we thought it was worthy of sharing. So today we want to welcome Miss Jan Beckom to the Voices of Treatment and Recovery. Hey, Jan, are you there?
I'm here.
Awesome. I'm glad you were able to come on the show today. We know you work late and you work very, very hard and you need your rest, and you're taking the time to come share your story with us today. So let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and what you have to share with us today.
Well, I was born in the 60s on the east side of Detroit, Michigan, to a father who was a Detroit police officer, and I was one of four. And when he retired, he decided to move his family back south to his hometown in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there until my father was, until he passed. But in the early 80s, I had two children of my own there. And
In Kentucky?
yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
Kentucky's a very different place. I mean, from Detroit to Kentucky. I mean, you grew up. You were born in the Motor City during the
Yes.
60s. That was an exciting time. How was it different
Yes.
for you? Was it a very different experience from Detroit to Kentucky?
It was pure culture shock. Yeah, we went from having something to do and somewhere to go all the time to going down there and wondering what to do with ourselves. That's for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
there was not a lot to do.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Continue. Tell us a little bit. Van, let's back up for our listeners. I want to make sure that our listeners understand why you're on today. We talked a little bit about it during the introduction. Jan suffered a great tragedy, a couple of great tragedies as it relates to addiction. And she is a survivor, and she's strong, and she has a lot of courage. And that's why we invited you on today, Jan. I want you to tell us a little bit about your experience as it relates to addiction in the family.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I had a husband who had a previous life of addiction, and I went into the marriage knowing that he had, I thought, overcome addiction to heroin. And matter of fact, years that I knew of, a couple years, and he had even gone into having brain surgery and was back to work and driving and doing well.
Okay, so because you're sounding a little muffled to us, so I want to make sure that your phone, because you're calling in from Michigan, and I want to make sure that our listeners can hear you.
Okay.
And if not, I'll just repeat what you said a little bit here.
Okay.
You said that you married a man that had a previous addiction that you were aware of, but you
Right.
thought he was
To
clean.
my knowledge, it was previous, yeah.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then he started secluding. The diet changed. He wasn't present for meals, but was constantly snacking. And he started secluding himself and, staying in one room by himself or staying across the room without speaking. And then
So the seclusion was the first sign? You didn't see anything before that?
just quietness.
Just quietness. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, go ahead.
So he got quiet. He excuse me. He secluded, and then he wanted to eat ice cream and drink pop all the time. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And there was never an answer forthcoming at all. And one day, that was it. You come home and he's gone. He had changed. He'd gone back, and he had started using again after he had his, second chance on life.
Mm. And how long between when you got married to him before you noticed the change and him actually telling you the truth about the fact that he'd gone back to using?
He never told me.
He never told you?
He never told me he went back.
So you had to discover that for yourself?
I never knew him in his addiction.
Okay.
We had only been married 2 years when he passed.
Mm.
So I only knew the him that had come through on the other side
Okay.
and wanted to overcome.
Okay.
And what I thought was successful at the time.
Well, what exactly was he using?
Heroin.
It was heroin.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 And then what happened?
So I felt really guilty because I'm a nurse, and I beat myself up because I thought, why, me being a nurse, can I not see the signs in someone who is under my own eyes?
Living in your home.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And I think I could pick a man out on the street, but I can't see him in the turmoil under my own roof.
And that's often how it happens, because you don't expect this thing. You don't expect that to be happening. You see a
Right.
completely different person, especially if you didn't know him when he was in his active addiction. Had you ever dated anybody or had any experience with addiction prior to that?
No.
Okay. So 2 years into your marriage, what happened?
Like, the first sign was that he had gotten fired from his job.
Mm-hmm.
He made parts for the interiors of automobiles, and he said the firing was because he passed a bad part,
Okay.
faulty parts. And he came home and he was very nonchalant about the fact that he was fired.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it very hard. And yet he was just like, ho hum, I can go out tomorrow and get another job. But when he said that, his action said something different. He didn't go out. He didn't look.
And so he promised you that he'd go get another job, but he just quit looking.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. He just stayed inside. And I kept every day, I would say, are you going to look for a job today, or are you going to get another job?
Okay.
And he wouldn't go.
Okay.
So one day he got dressed after I nagged him, and he said, okay, I'm going to go look for a job. So he went out, and he was gone about 2 hours, and he came back, and I said, that's kind of odd. And I said, where did you go? And he said, I went down to the bowling alley to see if they needed somebody to help. He said they didn't need any help. So he had gone to the bowling alley, he sat down, and he had a beer, and, just talked to the guys at the bowling alley and had a beer and came home.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the extent of it, and I never did ever see him go back out and look for a job.
So he began making excuses, doing other things. So while he was unemployed, who was the breadwinner in the home? I mean, was that a stressor for you?
Oh, a big stressor.
Okay.
It was me, and I worked from 7P to 7A, so, that gave him a lot of time to be alone by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he was with people that, he could be with that he knew that I didn't know.
Okay.
And so he would say he was with nobody, that he was home all the time, and, I wouldn't know where he was or what he was doing.
Okay. Hey, everyone, this is the Voices of Treatment and Recovery show. You're listening to Miss Jan Beckom tell her story about addiction in the family. Very, very powerful story that is sure to make an impact on anyone that's listening, but especially those that are struggling with this issue. Hey, Jan, go on and tell us what happened then. What happened after he kept looking for work or didn't keep looking for work?
Well, I was a 7P to 7A nurse, and one night I was at work, and there was a phone call from my husband, and he said, can you give me the number to so-and-so, who was our next-door neighbor? And I said, why do you need his number? Like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he said, because I need him to come and get me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, to come and get you where? Why do you need him to come and get you? And he said, because I'm at the hospital. I said, what are you doing at the hospital? He said, well, I made a mistake. I said, what kind of mistake did you make? He said, I overdosed.
Wow.
And so I got very upset. And, because I had never known him, to do drugs. So there was this slip up out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I got very upset. I was able to find someone to come in for me, and I went and picked him up.
Okay.
And so he had supposedly overdosed at home. And when I went in, I could see the disarray in my living room. You know, there were pieces of things laying around, like where they tore packages open. And I had some ceramic things that were broken and stuff as they, you know, left the home and stuff like that. And I told him, he swore he was by himself. And I said, well, if you were by yourself, I said, who called 911?
Wow.
And he said, well, I knew enough to know I was going into it. And I said, no. I said, someone was with you.
Okay.
But,
so you think he was bringing other people in the home getting high?
I think there was somebody, you know, who was partying with him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But he denied it. So that was months before he died, like maybe 3 months before he died.
So so 3 months before he died, he overdosed. Did he try at all to quit? I mean, did he try to get help? Did he ask for help?
He did not ask for help. He did not try, but he said he wasn't using again. So he didn't change in the fact that he didn't go back out and look for work, but he secluded even more and just acted like he wasn't going to try to do anything, period. Non-confrontational, he just became almost hermit-like. So my guess was that maybe at that time it was more like getting his thing while I was at work and then just hibernation during the day.
So how are you feeling during this time? What's going on with you? I know what's going on with him, but how are you coping with that while you're going through that situation?
I felt like I was on my own. I really did. I felt like he wasn't even there. I felt frustration. I could sit in a room and he could be across the room and he would never make contact with my eyes, never say a word, but he was in the room.
He wouldn't look at you? You think that had something to do with him feeling guilty? You think that was guilt?
It could have been shame. Yeah,
Shame.
It could have been shame. Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever show any remorse? Did he ever show any regret for what he was doing?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. No.
Okay. So let's.
It's like he was just so far away. Just so far away.
So as we move forward towards him actually expiring, what was the situation? Give us some details about what happened.
Okay, so I was coming home from work one day, driving home, and he called, and he says, I've called, I can't remember, it's a acronym for men who file for, people who help men to file for divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact name of it, but he said, I called them and I'm filing for divorce on Wednesday. Well, this was on a Monday when I'm coming home from work.
So he's divorcing you?
Yeah, that's what he said.
For what reason? What was his reason for that?
I don't know. I just think he was talking way out of his head. And I said, okay. So we had been planning on a move to Colorado. Because I had a nurse friend there, and I'd visited, and it was beautiful, and we thought we'd just get away from everything, move there and just start, a nice life in Colorado. And so it just flabbergasted me because I had already turned in my 2 weeks. I had a job offer, everything.
You think it was him trying to free you from the situation you were in? Did he? Because clearly, I mean, you got married because obviously you cared about each other.
Yeah.
Do you think he was trying to give you freedom from that situation?
I do now. Now I do. At the time, you listen to a lot of people, and at time I've got friends, whispering in your ear saying, oh, well, I think it was because he wouldn't know any context there. He couldn't get what he wanted to get high, and he was worried about getting on the other end and not being able to get nothing. But, yeah, no, I really do think that. I really, really feel like he was trying to protect me from it. I do.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's something. So, moving forward, tell us what happened leading up to that day.
Leading up to that day?
The day
Okay,
that
so I
he-
got home
Mhm.
that day, the rest of the way home, and then I went home. There was dead silence as if he was not the man on the other side of the phone, right?
Okay.
I got home. He's going about his little business. He's, walking around, not talking to me. And so we didn't speak. And then the next day, it was like I just started gathering up my things. It was like, okay, I guess I'll just, remove myself from the situation.
Okay.
And so I got some things together, and I decided I would go to my mom's. And so I remember getting my things packed in my car, and we were standing in the living room. He took off his wedding ring. And I remember him throwing it across the room, and he said, I'm the devil. I'm the devil. I'm the devil. And he said it 3 times like that.
Mm.
And I said, what do you mean? And he just didn't say anything back to me. And I said, you are who you think you are. And I
Wow.
said, you are who you let live within you.
That's that guilt, that self-loathing, that guilt,
Yeah.
that shame. He was very, very convicted by it.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So what happened? So let's fast forward to the day you got the news. What happened?
Okay. So I was driving down the road. I was going to my friend's house in Colorado. I was going to go to her house and go through with my move anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was like one of those things I'm going to show him,
Right.
And I'm driving down the road in an area totally unfamiliar to me. And I called the phone to check on him, because even though if he would be angry with me or something would be totally off, he would answer the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was always that engagement, always that manipulation,
Right.
that tit for tat always went back and forth.
Okay.
And there wasn't that. It wasn't there. It wasn't forthcoming.
Mm.
So I called my neighbor and I said, will you go check on him? I said, I haven't heard from him.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, I'll go check on him. So he calls me and he said, Jen, he doesn't come to the door. And I said, is the door open? Is it unlocked or is it locked? And he said, the door's unlocked. And I said, well, I give you permission. Go in and open the door and see if you see him. And he opened the door and he went to the kitchen and he said he's laying on the kitchen floor.
Mm.
And I said, is he alive? What's going on? And he said, Jen, he's blue.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, well, he had seizures and stuff before they did the brain surgery to correct him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, in a seizure he would turn blue. And I said, if you don't mind, can you touch him? Tell me, is he cold? Is he, whatever?
Because you're a nurse, so you know what you know what you're looking. Okay.
Here waiting to,
Right.
And he said, Jan, he said he's gone.
Oh my goodness.
And so I'm in the middle of nowhere in the car, and I'm just, screaming, I'm crying, and
Wow. Well,
I mean,
that's very, very painful. I know. God bless you. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break right there for a moment, okay? Thank you for sharing that with us. And we're going to continue. And believe it or not, listeners, there's even more. Jan I appreciate your courage, Jan. Hang in there with us, and we'll talk shortly after these messages.
I don't need a rainbow to know who made the rain. Don't need the waters parted to know who made the way. And I don't need a healing else, I'm sure. I believe that there is something.
Innovative Counseling and Consulting Incorporated is a place of understanding, healing, and hope for individuals and families seeking affordable substance abuse, mental health, and co-occurring disorder treatment services. Innovative Counseling and Consulting provides clients with tools for living an improved quality of life. We accomplish this by integrating a combination of the 12-step principles, evidence-based education, and cognitive behavioral therapy to meet the unique needs of each client. Whether you're an adult or teen that needs understanding, healing, and hope for behavioral health concerns, know that you have options and visit our website, innovativecounselingbhs.com.
The Cano Health Services is a local Tennessee resource for substance abuse and addiction. Harold Connell had a vision of what he believed needed to be developed in the healthcare industry for substance abuse. Cano Health Services is a safe and acute setting within a hospital with professionals having a history of treating individuals suffering from a seemingly hopeless disease. This is dear to Harold's heart because he has suffered from this hopelessness disease and encourage individuals to take the first step and seek help. Start a new way of life today and visit behavioralhealthforyou.com.
Is there something missing from your spiritual life? Do you wonder what good the churches are doing when there is so much addiction, homelessness, and general despair all around? Visit Get Recovered Ministries Christian Church at 4271 South 3rd Street in Westwood, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. They're a non-traditional Christian church looking for non-traditional Christians who want a chance to praise God and do His work without all the pomp and circumstance of traditional churches. GRMCC is a church built on the concept of growing your mind, body, and spirit through praising God, studying His Word, and doing His works. GRMCC offers addiction counseling and outreach, plus so much more. But they need your spirit and ideas. This Sunday morning at 10 a.m., bring your spirit, your praise, and your will to do God's work. To Get Recovered Ministries Christian Church at 4271 South 3rd Street, pastored by Reverend Harold Bates Sr. and Evangelist Phyllis Bates.
KAREN stands for Key Addiction Recovery Education Network. Karen Consultants is your one-stop source for high-quality, affordable addiction assistance, education, and guidance. Their business has 3 areas of focus: individual service, community service, and professional service. Founder Karen Dennis sees recovery as a self-discovery process in which you begin to choose new thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. They work with all age groups who have been negatively impacted by their own substance use or by the use of someone they love. Of particular interest to Karen is working with those who have difficulty getting and staying healthy. Family of origin issues often impede recovery, and they offer a safe place to begin to explore those family dynamics. Another area that they're involved in is in parenting relationships with adult children. Karen Consultants provide clinical supervision and domain-specific education for those seeking license as an addiction counselor. They offer continuing education for professionals, an approved provider for NAADAC and NAFC. Call today at 901-268-5367 or visit them online at KarenConsultants.net. You've been listening to the Voices of Treatment and Recovery with your host, Vincent Lewis.
If you had some heartache, made you cry 1,000 tears, then let me tell you now, I know just how you feel. And that heavy weight of sorrow that you've carried for so long will...
All right, welcome back to the Voices of Treatment and Recovery show. My name is Vincent Lewis, and I'm your host. Today we're talking to Miss Jan Beckom about addiction in the family. Hey, Jan, you still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay, Jan. That was a pretty emotional moment there, so I wanted to take a break in there. Now we can... Are you okay? How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate your courage today, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. So right now, we're dealing with the fact that your husband has expired, and Tell us what's going on with you.
Well, I was kind of lost, and I headed back home to family and to take care of, arrangements for my husband. And
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I just kind of drifted in my mind for a while. And some of the greatest rocks in my world were my children.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being, my daughter, my youngest child. She always told me, she said, "Mommy, you're my rock, and I'm always going to be yours." And she helped me, she let me lean on her.
So your daughter helped you through the process?
Oh, yeah, she sure did.
Okay.
We'd always talk like friends, like
Mhm.
two best friends, two young girls, giggling and laughing when something was good, or hugging and crying when something was bad.
And is she living in Kentucky with you at this point?
No, my daughter passed in November.
Okay, let's talk about your daughter's situation. Because we know
Okay.
that you had, which is very, very difficult, I know. And again, we really appreciate you coming on doing this. So tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about your daughter's story.
Oh, my daughter, she was just a lively one. She was always very outgoing. Oh my gosh, bubbly, outgoing. She did everything there was to do in school. She wanted to be part of everything. Dance, softball, cheerleading, everything. All the way up through college, she did cheerleading. So she was very well known and stuff. And then I think in college she kind of got lost somewhere and ended up in partying 101, just hanging out
Party.
with the round
A lot of
crowd.
college students end up in partying 101.
Yeah, we missed a class here, we missed a class there, and ended up, the partying the night before became more real than the class the next day,
Yeah. I can relate.
So, yeah. So she went from a university back into a hometown college
Mm-hmm.
where she knew more kids from her high school, and she was cheering there at that college.
Okay.
But then it dwindled down to nothing, and she was out of college before I knew it. And it came down to one man, and I really didn't see the attraction.
Mm-hmm.
The man, a very small physique, very how would we say, effeminate qualities to his voice, and
Okay.
just
Okay.
just I don't know, almost to the point where to me it was very repulsive.
It wasn't a good match. You didn't see.
No, it was nothing like I had ever
Okay.
seen my daughter around.
Mm.
And so it just sent up these red flags forever.
Okay. So
And
it was out of the norm for her as well.
very, very.
Okay.
Yes, very.
Okay. So
So
then,
within the first year,
Mhm.
I saw differences in her, a lot of differences. And so she came to visit, and he came with her. And I noticed, he paced all the time, paced. And he had his hand in his phone, and he'd be pacing. And, or he'd get in the shower, and he'd spend forever in the shower. And I didn't know why.
okay.
And, it was just, and whatever we went to do, it was like he was putting his foot down and telling her she couldn't do it, or,
Mm-hmm.
that he was controlling every tiny moment. And I just never understood why. And I guess, without there being a really easy transition in the story, my daughter became pregnant by him before marriage to him.
Okay.
After about a year into the relationship.
Okay.
And I was very upset when I found out because I still had this really bad feeling.
Okay.
And so she became pregnant by him, and the relationship was always in a turmoil. She would always call me. At this time, she's in Kentucky, and I'm back in Michigan, living because a lot of my mother's family's here. I have a brother and a sister here, and she was there. And so now we're communicating, long distance on the phone, and she's telling me about this, and I'm upset. And
so her relationship with him was a turbulent relationship, but now there's a baby involved.
Yes, very turbulent.
Okay.
So I went when the baby was born. I saw, and then he was at work when it was due for the baby to leave the hospital. So I went to leave the hospital with her to take the baby home. I went into the home, and the home was utterly repulsive. Nasty, filthy mess.
Mm.
Well, so I cleaned it up, and I begged her, why don't you just come home with me? Please, just leave. Just come home with me. And you could tell she was kind of teetering on the line. But right down to the last minute, and she said no.
Okay. He was probably influencing that decision, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so almost all the way home, on the 8-hour drive home, you could tell was still uncertain and thinking about it. And I said, Allie, if you'll tell me right now, I'll turn around and I'll do it all over again. I said, I'll come and get you and that baby. And she said, no, Mommy. If I need you, I'll call you. I said, okay. Well, 2 weeks later, I got that call, and it was on a Sunday evening. And she called, and I took off right then, and I went and got him. Her and that 2-week-old baby, I went and got him.
Okay.
And I brought him here. Well, I found out, and she had track marks on her arm, and the baby was 2 weeks, and the baby kept shuddering.
So she's shooting heroin.
Yeah, and the baby was addicted.
And the baby was born addicted.
Yeah.
Wow. What kind of how did that affect the baby being born addicted?
Well, like I said, the baby would lay there, and it would just. The best way to describe it was that it would look like you had poked it with something hot, and then its whole body, like all fours, would just jerk, and its eyes would close, and then it would jerk. And it wouldn't do it all the time, but just unexpectedly, it would do it.
Mm.
And
it must have been very, very painful to see your grandbaby born addicted to heroin.
Yeah. And I would just, what do you call it? I would just swaddle it really tight, and then I would hold it, and, I just worked with her a lot of hours, and, then I had to work with Allie a lot of hours too, not only the baby, but Allie. And I saw Allie going through it and the baby going through it at the same time.
Mm. Wow. Okay, so we're coming up on our time here, so I want to make sure that our listeners benefit from your daughter's experience and your experience. Let's move forward and kind of talk about, moving towards the end of the situation.
Okay. Well, in 2 years ago, Allison had her second child, born to addiction. There were, and this isn't to be mean, because there were many clean years for Allison in between the two children. We did well for 3 years, I think. We had a good clean time.
So you had 3 years of clean time with her?
Oh, yeah. Some really good years.
But she has 2 addicted children now, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second child arrived addicted, and we spent I think it was about 6 weeks through a stint in NICU with the baby. They came home. Allison was diagnosed with a heart disease, a very serious heart disease, and the heart was swollen and she couldn't breathe well. And they said it was she got it during the childbirth, but it was what do I want to say? It was a result of the use of the drugs, but it inflamed during
birth
of the child.
Okay.
Okay, so then she got the flu, and when she got the flu in November, then the combination of, you're using drugs, and you've got the flu, and you've got a heart disease.
Mm.
And she had a husband who was using heavily, and he had been in jail for 6 months and had just come out of jail 1 month before her death. And so he was home, and I was on the other end of the phone. I was in the hospital. I had spinal surgery, and I begged her. I said, get yourself to the hospital, because she was telling me she was cramping. I said, you're dehydrated. I said, go to the hospital, get some IV fluids. And she wouldn't go to the hospital because she was afraid to leave her children with her husband alone.
Mm.
So she waited until it was too late. And she got to the hospital, and by the time she got there, they told her that her kidneys had already shut down and other organs had begun to follow.
Wow.
That she, with her drug use, the heart had just failed her.
My God. Wow.
So I came home from the hospital at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
She and I had talked on the phone, and she told me she was going to the hospital. And at 10 o'clock that night, I got the call that she had gone, that she was gone.
Mm. So I know this is a very, very difficult subject for you, and again, we appreciate your courage. You've lost now your husband, and you've lost your daughter, both to the disease of addiction.
Yeah.
Which is a very, very painful thing. How did you cope? How did you cope with the second loss? And I know you're still dealing with it. So my question should be, how are you coping with it?
The best thing I can think of is I'm coping through telling the story. I'm coping through talking about it, because so many people look at me and they think, well, this is supposed to be over for you now. Your battle's over.
Mm-hmm.
And your time for grieving is over.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be back to normal life right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not. I'm not. And if I can tell every listener out there, the one thing I would say is there's no set amount of time that you can save your child, or you could save your husband or your loved one. Keep going. Do it 100,000 million times over. I mean, yeah, you get mad. Yeah, you think, oh, I don't love you anymore. You've hurt me for the last time. No, because one day, if you don't do it, you're going to be the one sitting there hurting. You're going to be the one saying, I could have done something more. I mean, I know right now that every day I write in a journal and I think to myself that I have absolutely zero regrets, because I know I did everything in my power for my daughter Allison. Everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. And right now, all I can think of is that song. I don't even know the name of it, but there's one line in it, and it just says, I am woman, hear me roar. And that's the way I feel inside.
So your goal is to continue telling your story. It helps you heal. And we're really running down on time, but what I want to do, your overall message, I want to make sure that our listeners understand, to families, is to never give up.
All right.
Never give up. But if tragedy should come calling, you have to heal through sharing, through getting support. Are you getting support in your community in any way right now?
Yes, the main thing is I did not find the support I needed, and I don't mean to blame any one group, but my support didn't come from Naranon or anything like that. My support came from a group which is just specifically for people who have lost children.
Okay.
And that seemed to speak to me the loudest.
But it helps to talk and to share it. And we appreciate
Yes,
you
absolutely.
sharing your story, Jan. This has been incredible. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your words of encouragement to families that might be going through this. And thank you for being a friend of the Voices of Treatment and Recovery. We look forward to talking to you again soon. And let's give her a round of applause for being so courageous today. Thank you. Everyone, we thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the show. We're coming to the end now. Remember, there's hope. If you need help, reach out to us at treatmentradio.com. That's treatmentradio.com. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all worthwhile children of God, and we all deserve a chance. And unfortunately, some of us die as a result of this disease. But you can live. There's hope. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
'Cause I
2 minutes left. You can roll this song.
something more than I can see. I believe that there is someone holding on to me. Sometimes I won't feel it, but that don't change a thing. 'Cause it's by faith that I believe. You might see a miracle and give praises to the Lord. Don't let a touch from heaven be the thing you're waiting for. Blessed are those who don't see but still believe. Do you believe? Oh, I believe that there is something more than I can see. I believe that the arms of Jesus are holding on to me. Sometimes I won't feel it, but that don't change a thing. 'Cause it's by faith that I believe. Oh, oh, oh,
KWAM, now on FM 107.9 and AM 990. The following program is a paid presentation.